Okay, so you know how like in movies and stuff, millionaires are always like covered in diamonds, driving fancy cars. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
Like that's our image of what a millionaire is.
Mm.
But today on this deep dive, we're going to kind of flip that image on its head.
Yeah.
And we're doing a deep dive on the book, The Millionaire Next Door. And this book is all about kind of like revealing the sometimes surprising habits of like how wealthy people really are,
Mm.
not how they look on TV.
Exactly. Yeah. It is. It's really interesting because I think we're all conditioned to think that, like, spending lavishly is what wealth is all about. But this book takes a deep dive into, like, the real lives of millionaires, and what it finds is pretty different.
Yeah, it really like busts that whole myth wide open. So
Hmm.
are you saying like no flashy cars, no, designer
I mean,
clothes?
not exactly. But the book, The Millionaire Next Door, really emphasizes that one of the core traits of millionaires in real life is that they live below their means.
Oh,
They would much rather be financially secure than look like they are. They'd rather invest their money wisely, than splurge on things just to show off.
okay, so it's almost like they're playing a different game.
Right.
Like the points aren't, how many fancy things they own,
Right.
but like how financially stable they are in the long run.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so the book goes on and it outlines kind of like three main traits that these millionaires have in common. Could you kind of break those down for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first one, and we kind of touched on this already, is that they live below their means. They really try to resist that urge to spend money they don't actually have. Like they think about what they need, not just what they want. Like imagine, a really successful doctor driving a used car.
Oh,
It might seem a little unusual, but they understand that, at the end of the day, a car is just a tool to get you from point A to point B. A fancy car doesn't necessarily mean that their life is better.
right?
Yeah.
It's about being really intentional about what you spend your money on.
Yeah.
Okay, what's the second trait?
So the second trait is wise investing. These millionaires, they get the power of compounding. They put their money to work for them, whether it's in stocks, real estate, or in their own businesses. It's like, imagine planting a seed. You don't see the results right away, but if you're consistent with your efforts, over time, that seed grows into something, really amazing.
Right. So it's kind of about playing that long game, not looking for like the quick payoff,
Right.
but slowly building wealth over time.
Wow.
Okay. And what about that third trait?
So the third one is avoiding debt. They know how bad debt can be for your financial progress, so they use credit cards responsibly, if at all, and they avoid any unnecessary loans. They'd rather, save up for something than be stuck paying, all that interest. It's really like a whole mindset shift.
Yeah, debt is like the opposite of planting a seed. It's like, you're constantly pulling the seedling up before it can grow. Now, there was one thing that really kind of stood out to me in the book,
Yeah.
and it was this idea of PIWs and UAWs.
Uh-huh.
Can you kind of shed some light on those for our listener? Like, what are those?
Sure. So pause, that stands for prodigious accumulators of wealth.
Okay.
And basically, these are the people who have really mastered building wealth. Think of them like the quiet achievers. They live pretty modestly. They're diligently saving and investing, and they kind of watch their wealth grow, slowly but surely over time.
Okay, so they're kind of like the under the radar millionaires next door.
Right, exactly.
Okay, and what about the UAWs?
So UAWs are underaccumulators of wealth, and they're kind of like the opposite of pause. So they might have a high income, but they spend it all, trying to look wealthy. But ultimately, that hinders their financial progress. It's like that classic thing of, keeping up with the Joneses,
Hmm.
but it often ends up, with debt and financial stress.
Oh, okay, so it's not just about how much money you make.
Right.
It's about how much you actually keep and how you use it to grow your wealth.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing how like these two groups, they could have a very similar income, but they can end up, so different financially just based on their choices and their habits.
Exactly.
The book also mentions that a lot of millionaires are self-employed or business owners.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think that is?
Well, yeah, I mean, owning a business gives you a lot more control over your finances.
Okay.
But it's more than that. I think it's a mindset. Entrepreneurs are, often willing to take risks and invest in themselves and their ideas. And they understand that to build something that's truly valuable, it takes time, dedication, and a willingness to learn and to adapt as you go. But I think it's important to remember that you don't have to own a business to build wealth.
Right.
The same principles apply to everyone. Saving diligently and investing wisely, whether you're, an employee or a business owner.
So if our listener was going to like take away one like key lesson, one main idea from the Millionaire Next Door, what do you think it should be?
I think the biggest thing is to stop trying to look rich and start focusing on building real, sustainable wealth.
Okay.
Shift your focus away from just spending and buying things. And be more mindful about your financial habits. Embrace that frugality, invest wisely, and then just give it time to work.
That's such a powerful takeaway. I mean, the Millionaire Next Door really does kind of, challenge our ideas about what wealth is.
Yeah.
And I think it gives us a really good like roadmap to actually, being financially secure by making smart choices and thinking about the long term. And it leaves us with a lot to think about, wouldn't you say?
Definitely. Yeah, it really makes you kind of look at your own financial habits and ask yourself, are you playing the short game or are you really trying to build something that will last?
Right.
I think that's what the book wants you to think about.
Yeah, it does.
Uh,